Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Meridith, and I'm the CEO of the World's Best Connectors. World's Best Connectors is a community of C-suite executives who work together to help other executives, I say, get their work done or get into good trouble, or both. But essentially, what we do is help other companies improve their connections with family, clients, employees, government, and the media. We do a lot of seminars. You usually have an annual convention. We do a lot of consulting work. So go to our website, www.thewbcs.com. So it's www.thewbcs.com. And the special project that we have this year is called Wish I Had Known. And many of you have seen the previous series that we've had going on. We've had 6 episodes this year. That was pretty exciting. We talked about everything from how to start a family business to talking to actual parents themselves on how some of the challenges they face and how they overcome it. So Wish I Had Known, it's geared at parents of student athletes. They can be any age since I found out that gymnasts start at 4 years old and it can go through the kids in the G League who are still trying to get in, and they're 24 years old, still trying to get into the pros. What we're going to do during Wish I Had Known, and I'll talk about it more at the end of this session, is we're going to have a series of webinars similar to this, except we're going to delve into a lot more detail about specific issues that are bothering parents. And we'll have a private Facebook group so parents can talk to each other, ask questions. We'll have special events like this with special guests that'll come in and zero in on particular topics. So it's going to be really interesting. Hopefully, very exciting course. It will be starting in January. If you look at the chat, and I will send out additional information on this as well, you can always go to our website, wishihadknown.net, and get the details. But essentially, right now, we're recruiting for parents and we're recruiting for speakers and sponsors. But today, I'm very excited to have a special guest here with me. I try to dress appropriately, so I had football. I lived in 6 different cities, so I won't say what other jerseys I have in my closet, but I have a few. But obviously, the past 29 years, I've been very happy here in Phoenix, Arizona. I helped work on a football stadium, State Farm Stadium, getting that approved and built. So I enjoy it even more here these days, and Cardinals are doing really well. But we have friends from a lot of different teams that are going to step in and join us. But Lorenzo Alexander is a special friend. He also has helped us out a lot with Grand Canyon University, relationships over there, and he might talk about that a little bit. But I want to start out by just introducing you, Lorenzo Alexander. You're on.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Denise, having me on today. It's always a pleasure to be able to help pay it forward with student athletes, parents. Obviously, I'm a parent now. I have 4 kids. My oldest is 28, and my youngest is 10, and they span from different engagements as far as being student athletes, from just kind of beginner to I'm all in and I'm trying to play at Alabama, right? And so I'm kind of going through some of this and learning a lot as well. So it's been really cool. But went to Cal Berkeley. See, I'm repping Cal today. Graduated back in 2005 after spending 4 years there, earning my degree. Went on and was able to be in the NFL for 15 seasons, playing for 5 organizations. The Cardinals being one of them, but I also was in Carolina. Washington Commanders, where I spent most of my time, 7 years, spent 2 years here, as I mentioned, Oakland one, and then I finished up in Buffalo. And so I, went through the gambit of being a undrafted guy to a role player to then a player that the team relied on and being a captain and a Pro Bowler. So I kind of went through that whole experience. And then with that, right, going from college where you're not making any money until later in my career where you have multi-million type of dollar deals. So I've seen it all, experienced it all from coaching, from finances. And now as I've transitioned, finished in 2019, so I've been out 5 years, which has really flown by. Still learning, still growing, but I'm heavily involved in local media here covering the Cardinals. on a couple of different outlets. I'm working with the NFL as a consultant, helping guys transition out of the NFL. And what is that next chapter? And what are those post transitions after football is over? What do those things look like? And help them kind of process those spaces. And probably my coolest thing that I get to do is spend a significant time with my wife and my kids and coaching the kids, traveling with my wife. And so yeah, so I'm still busy, still all over the place, even though I've retired from my passion of playing ball, still really engaged in the youth space and just trying to pay it forward and serve.
Yeah. Well, it's great. What we're hoping to with our programs that we have in World's Best Connectors is to lead people along the path towards success like you have. What you have
Right.
is sort of the dream, the well-rounded everything, the family, the past career success, the current career success. And it seems like you're having fun when I see you there on TV analyzing those games. So I really appreciate that. But what I promised people today that we would cover is sort of three things. And again, geared at parents, but I think this advice is great for everyone. So I want to talk about three things that parents need to do today. Okay. Um, they have a lot of ideas going on. They're driving around, they're going to practices, they're trying to do videos that they don't know how to do that. They're on webinars, they're really, really busy. Um, but goal setting, I think, is a very important thing to start with. And a lot of people skip over that. They're just so busy. They don't
Right.
know. I always give the Cheshire Cat example. You, it doesn't matter what direction you go in if you don't know where you're going. So
Right.
I always start out with that. Goal setting is really important. And I think what's makes it harder now, people see the end goal. They see their kid they visualize, people in the visualization, visualize their kid up there on the podium at the Olympics, getting a gold medal put around their neck, or they see the sitting there, the example I gave is draft night, and everybody is gathered around the TV watching, and the phone rings, and they're going to a team. So people see that, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
steps between that. So I'd like, sort of your advice on goal setting. Um,
Yeah.
it wasn't, I'm sure, a straight path for you either. You have to be able to make adjustments. But why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I would even take it one step further because it happens even earlier. It's NIL deals, right? And so that's even happening in high school in some states. And so that money and being able to obtain some of that fame is happening a lot earlier with social media and IG and Twitter and really being able to put your athlete or your child on a platform and kind of put them out there in that way. So I think that was probably even an additional layer that I didn't necessarily have to deal with growing up, but that is obviously out there now. And I would say, for parents, as far as it comes to goal setting, you have to ask your child, what do they want to do, right? And obviously, depending on the age of the child, it's gonna differ as far as their input and their involvement in some of the decision making and the goal setting. Obviously, a 4 or 5 year old is going to be much different than a 14 year old. And so I think the biggest thing that we have to remember as parents that this isn't my journey, it is there, and I am along the way to help them at the different places and either use my resources, whether that's financial, human resources, to maybe help them discover who they are and obtain the dreams that they want to have. And I think the biggest thing I have, right, like I mentioned in my opening, I have two kids that are living with me now, Zoe, who is a junior in high school, and I have Mason, who is an eighth grader. Both of them are extremely talented, but both of them have different perspectives as far as how sports is going to play a role in their journey and being successful. And so I can't ever want it more than they want it. I can't desire for them to be great in sports more than they want it. It has to come from them. And, with Zoe, she is extremely gifted. I see all the things that she could be. Maybe never playing, in the NBA or the WNBA or playing professional basketball or volleyball, but she definitely has the ability to get a scholarship in play, and I know what that takes. But Zoe doesn't want to be in sports or involved in the sports that way. For her, it's more of a social opportunity to where she gets to go out and compete and have fun and be healthy. But it's really that social aspect that she gets out of it, being around other young ladies, some of the challenges that you grow and is building those bonds. That's way more important to her than being able to play D1 sports. And then more importantly than that, doing all the things it takes to become a college athlete or a big time high school star, right? The early workouts, always eating right, missing the parties. That's just not in her plan. Even though I know she has the ability and other people have told me that, right? If it's almost created some tension at times because I'm pushing her based on what I know she can be, but she really doesn't want it. So as a parent, right, I have to kind of go up to that line to see, but if they don't want to take it on, at some point we have to let them rest in that and be that, right? Because their challenge in the life and their decisions, they have to be able to live with. And we've had those discussions as far as what that means, right?
Mhm.
Because she wants to go to law school or business school. Hey, so let's pay for that with your undergrad, with your college ability. But she doesn't want to do it, right? Even though it makes sense, financially in some other ways. So I've had to step back. I've had to allow her to kind of set her goals and then walk alongside of her and say, well, how do you want dad to help you? How do you want dad to support you? And then trying to help her kind of pivot within what she thinks is best for her life at 16.
Right.
On the flip side of that, I have a 14-year-old who I've asked, and he grew up in the locker room with me. That was one of the coolest things is playing later, being 36, 37. When I retired, my 14-year-old got to be in the locker room just like Zoe and get to see a lot of and experience a lot of the football. I remember one time during training camp, right? Me and Larry Fitzgerald are tossing him back and forth in the air, right? People don't get to experience that, but so he loves ball. He has a lot of fond memories of it. He's in it. A lot of his uncles are right professional football players. And so he's all about ball. And one of the things that he wants to do is go to a top tier university. And obviously that changes with the kids today, whoever's at the top. So last time I asked him, it was Alabama, then it went to Georgia, at one point it was Clemson, right? Whoever's the top school, but that's what he aspires to do. That's what he wants to do. That's what he dreams about doing. And
Right.
so I said, okay, cool. I know what that looks like, right? I went to Cal. I know what that takes. And I've actually learned from some of the things I didn't do that could fast track you because in today's with the portal and the NIL money, a lot of colleges are looking towards older kids, right? The D3s, the D2s, the lower end D1s. I'm gonna give scholarships to them in the transfer portal because I know they're mature and they can handle that transition. So let's get to work. And I remember this one morning, we getting up early because he has to be at school at 8. So we get up at like 6:30 so he can work out, an hour before. And he's like, Dad, can we do this some other time? I'm like, when we gonna do it? You got practice after? You got school, and this is something that you have to do in order for you to go. Oh, I want to do it a different time. I said, well, buddy, what do you want to do? Tell me what you want to do again. And he was like, I want to go play at Alabama. All right, great. So this goal of working out in the mornings or this habit that we have to create working out in the morning is a part of that. So I say all that to say, hey, make sure that your goals are in line with your kids' dreams and what they want to do in life, right? And you have to have those conversations, and it may not look like what you have for them. So have those conversations, and then from there, once that initial destination is set, now let's set up things that's going to allow you to do well and achieve that goal. Because the last thing you want to do, right, is like for Zoe, and we're going to get into the family financials, right? I'm gonna spend all this money with personal training and specialist coaches and nutritionists and do all the travel ball, but she really don't want to do it. She just doing it just to hang out. Well, why am I spending thousands of dollars when I could just put her in a nice rec league that's competitive, has good coaching, good people, and save myself a pretty penny, and she's still getting the same enjoyment out of it, right? And
Gotcha.
so that's kind of what I see when you goal set. You have to check with your child first. What is their dreams? Obviously, that's going to change as they get older and get around different people and experience things. And then you set your goals based off of that. Not what you necessarily want as a parent, but what do they see for themselves? And then, hey, this is how you do it. This is the process. This is what it looks like.
Yeah. And I think that's a key point you make. You have to recheck. It may have started out a lot differently in the beginning than it did. I had a friend that's their child was like state champion horse jumping here. And so, you think of Olympics, right? By the time high school came, no interest. So you have to keep checking again, but I think that's great. And you brought up the second thing that I think parents have to do now is, and which they already are doing now, which is hassling with finances, but
Right.
uh, putting a little more structure around it. And it's difficult for them because everything else going on. We have prices of everything going up. We have inflation. We have the NCAA changing rules every year. We have schools. Each school does its own thing changing. So it makes it really, really
Right.
difficult to plan. But you can plan sort of for your own self and your own family a little more effectively. So one thing we're going to do and wish I had known is spend a lot of time probably on that. I know a lot of parents got hit. You talked about NIL. People look at that as a dream, but to me, I look at it like the lottery. Yes, I may win. I'm looking forward to that winning. I can visualize me winning the lottery, but it may not happen. And the average, I looked it up the other day. In 2023, the median average award was $2,700.
Right.
And a lot of it is less than $500. Okay. So that's can be good and will help people work on that if they are able to get that. Will help people prepare better with the students to compete for that. But what we want them is to not to count on that. So
Right.
tell us a little about just ideas you might have on financial planning. Obviously, there are certain types of people that you need in your on your corner to help you.
Yeah.
That
I
you
mean, I
do.
think there's a couple of different things, right? And obviously as the NIL kind of continues to develop, because I have some friends that are in college sports, and at some point they're even trying to get to where kids are getting paid and everybody's getting the same, and then you have marketing dollars on the back end of it. So they're gonna figure
Right.
out a way to where it's a little more equitable. And so with that in mind, right, you want to start thinking about understanding how money works, right? And a lot of this stuff you can do by reading books, getting online. Obviously, if you have the ability to have a professional that you can talk to, some of those people don't, charge free, kind of consultations just to start understanding. But I would say a lot of it's just doing some of your own homework, reading up, and then when you go to those professionals, you have really great questions to ask. And then part two of that would be, right, a tax accountant is one thing, but I would also say a tax planner, right? And that's something that I didn't really understand until I've been done and retired, right? And when you're talking to set up LLCs and different S corps, right? If you're one of those athletes that are bringing in a significant amount of money, right? Not only how do we make the money and be financially responsible with our own spending, but then how do we keep our money, right, and minimize necessarily how much we have to pay to the government, obviously in a legal fashion. But I think those are like the two components that you want to understand from a financial piece when you start bringing in a lot of that money. Now, from a parent perspective, right now, I'm looking at, again, it has to align with what my kids are going and trying to do, and it can also change. And I am a firm believer. I don't care if my 8-year-old or 5-year-old or 6-year-old think they're going to the Olympics. I don't need to be spending 30 grand a year, having them travel all over the country. He's the best third grader in the country for class of 2040, right? That really does not matter for college scouts because puberty hasn't hit in. We haven't had the injuries. We haven't had, does he still want to play when by the time he gets to high school, right? A lot of kids end up retiring from their sport that you think they're really great at by the fourth grade because of all that additional pressure that we put on them, all that traveling. And so I would say just start small initially, right? Initial rec leagues, they have some really good rec leagues. And then as they progress and show the want to and are asking for more, then you slowly progress and you have to do your homework is trying to find like the different organizations that do a really good job as far as coaching and developing your kid, right? Because you're paying these people money to then at that point really coach and be a significant influence on your kid. So And then obviously you got to see how many kids do you have in your family? How many sports, right? You don't want to become a taxi driver. There's a lot of things that go in that decision making. And I think sometimes people's fear is fear of missing out. When they're young, they're not missing out a lot. The biggest thing is making sure they're having a great time, right? Working on their motor skills and are around great people. And a lot of times you can find that in solid rec leagues or maybe the step up. You don't have to be on the number one team in volleyball at the age of 10. Now, as you get up and get older in certain sports, yes, those things matter as far as getting exposure and people seeing you, but you don't have to do that at an early age. So I would say just start small. I'm also big on multiple sports. So do seasonal stuff. You don't have to do 2 and 3 basketball teams, 2 and 3 baseball teams, and a football team year round where each one is could be $150 a piece, right? I have families that try to do that and manage that, which is really hard. So even if you have it, don't do it, right? So I
Mhm.
think just really making sure your kids are exposed to different coaching styles, different sports, while allowing themselves to be a kid too and to really experience some downtime, right? Being able to go on a vacation where they don't feel like they're just, I'm a professional athlete at the age of 10. I think is going to help obviously your pockets. It's going to enhance their love for the game if they really want it, right? When you're away from it, oh, I want to get back to it once I get there. And so I think you really got to think of it more about those things versus actually how much money I'm going to put into it. Because if you start there, that typically is going to define what type of money or can we even do this, right? And I know there's a lot of organizations also that if you can't afford it but want to be a part of it, will find ways, right? It's going to take some sacrifice and some investment as far as your child and your part, but will help you in that as well. So as far as supplemental stuff, I know that's what we do for some of our kids on my youth football team. So, but obviously got to have your grades right. Families have to be committed, right? Because if I'm investing, I need you to invest in the process for yourself.
Mhm.
I think it's huge.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and which sort of brings us to the last question, which the last thing the parents need to think about, which really pulls all of these together. We talked about kids having different talents, kids having different interests, um, and to be happy in life, you have to match those up
Yeah.
sometimes. And you may be doing different things at different times, as you mentioned, and things like that. But why don't you talk about a little bit about how parents, and this is going to be a big part of what we're doing, Wish I Had Known, because we're going to help kids if they want to have an art gallery. They may not want to do something in sports
Yeah.
all their life.
And it can be right. Yeah, it could be, a um, um, vastly different things, right? Doesn't just have to be sports. But even from a sports perspective, let me touch on that a little bit, right? We want well-rounded athletes, multi-sport athletes. And again, let me define multi-sport. Multi-sport athlete doesn't mean that I'm playing on a soccer, basketball, and a baseball team all at the same time, right? There's stuff that's seasonal, right? Commitments, because I'm gonna get into that and what that means, because I think that's a part of developing your child. Commitments, right? Priorities. And if you're on 3 different sports teams, you cannot commit the way you can to one, right? It's just impossible. There's going to be conflict. So be very intentional about what you're doing, what program you're aligning with in that aspect. Also, like my son, the baby, they all read really well and they read every day. But Miles right now is in like chess club. He's in entrepreneurship, things that they offer after school. He's finding like these different classes. He's in pickleball class. He takes tennis courses at school. So it's like workshops that's not necessarily a big commitment, but he's learning these other places that he may want to be in. He's in band in school, right? Kind of encouraging that, like, oh man, that's pretty cool. As an adult, like, man, I wish I knew how to play the piano, the saxophone, or some type of instrument, right?
Mm.
Man, I wish I knew how to sing, encouraging my kids to do performing arts. Things that you may see but may not seem cool, but a little push from you will help them kind of dive into these other aspects that's going to all, at the end of the day, come back and really help them in whatever they decide to do in life, right? Performing arts, being able to speak and connect with people, right? Why wouldn't you want to know how to do that in whatever you decide to be able to do when you're in the band or doing art, right? Using the creative side of your brain. So anytime that you're in these other spaces, how can I be creative? How can we change this dynamic within the structure that we've been given? So when we do that, right, we're developing the whole person, and now they're able to walk into these different spaces. And that's something I think my mom really did well for me, making sure that I was well rounded, in the sense of, I earned this name one man gang because I could do a lot of different things on the football field, but I also can do a lot of different things right in life as far as, having to be a dad, having to be a husband, having to be a business partner, a friend, right, a mentor, a coach, all these things. And you have to have the skill set that goes along with those things. And so yes, we're talking about developing, being an athlete or whatever though that interest is, but I would also say let's make sure that we're developing the person, right? That activity is just the thing. The main thing is the development of that child, that person, as they are trying to accomplish that thing, right? And the pursuit of excellence in that thing, whether I'm being a student, right, or an athlete or an entrepreneur, right? What do those things look like? I'm talking about, right, character, integrity, right? We talk about resilience, grit, right? Emotional intelligence, my mindset. Those are the things, effort, attitude. Those are the things that you really want to be highlighting as they are actually attacking that sport of choice or that dream of choice, because those things are transferable, right? I can't take my ability to rush the passer and take that into um, being a teacher, right? But I can take my ability to game plan as far as how I was going to attack that offensive lineman, right, that week, and take that same skill set and say, hey, let me prepare to teach these kids this way. Let me be strategic as far as how I'm going to deliver my game plan the same way I was going to set that offensive lineman up with certain pass rush moves based on the information that I have, right? That's a transferable skill that a lot of times people don't realize once they get away from their sport that they can utilize in other areas. So, yes, we want our kids to develop who they are within that sport as far as the skill set, but also we want to make sure that the soft skills are being developed as well, at all times. And that should always be the main thing, right? And my discipline, being accountable and kept integrity, great effort, those things, my mindset, emotional IQ. Am I getting better in those areas? Because those are the things that never leave us, right? I'm old, can't play ball no more, but that doesn't mean that I'm no longer effective. Now I just have to transition those skills to another passion of mine. And right now I'm doing that, obviously coaching, media, and some consulting work with the NFL.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, summarize, this has been exciting. One, I want, again, people to realize this is the kind of talent we have here in Wish I Had Known. And we're lucky to have access to it. Phoenix is a great place. It's like 800 professional athletes have retired here, but some of them are a lot more active in the community, like Lorenzo is, and he's been a real asset to our community and hopefully our nation now. It's a nationwide program with which I had known. So what I want to recommend people go to the website, www.wishihadknown.net, N-E-T. If you're watching this, we're going to repeat this show a couple of times. So we taped it. Be sure to download the chat, as I have information on there where you can get more information from us. Right now, we're recruiting for speakers, folks like Alexander. When you're talking about finances, I have what I call her the tax czar. There's this woman that she just seems to know everything there is about. She's taken so many courses and kept up to speed on it, which is really the key is keeping up with it. And she'll be a part of this. So you're going to be having a lot of resources to look forward to in our program. So we're looking for speakers. We're also looking for sponsors. Um, we want people who can provide services to parents. That's as simple as that. So not just tax preparers and not just our financial people, but shoe manufacturers, t-shirt people, doctors. You're gonna meet some doctors in our program, some sports doctors. Any kind of people, lawyers, we have lawyers in our program, any kind of people who can provide services to parents, be a help to parents, get a hold of us now. Wishihadknown.net. You can fill out an application in there and send it in. I invited, maybe just have time for a couple of questions. Do you, Lorenzo, have time for a question or
Yeah.
two? Okay.
Yes.
Um, I invited just a few people, which I always do, just to ask questions. And I see Paula Neff is online. I want to mention to people that, yes, most of our stuff is related to the United States, but we actually have international people in our group, and Canada is not United States. You know, we have Canadians, and Paula, I think, takes the I don't know, the prize for the farthest away. So, do you have a question that you might want to ask Lorenzo, Paula? You're on.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
Oh, you're
Uh,
fine.
I am in Switzerland, so very different time zone over here.
We
So
appreciate you
thank
being up late.
no, yeah, it's an evening program. That's why I also have two kids,
Oh,
therefore.
great.
But yeah, I'm very glad that I was able to join for the last half of this and to get some valuable information. And I missed something, so I wanted to ask you, like, I know you mentioned you have kids as well. What is something that you realize now that you have kids that you could have used maybe when you were a kid and, a high performing athlete going forward that you know now?
Um, I think the biggest thing for me, and it really doesn't have to do with my kids per se, and again, that's why I always hesitate. For me, I have to realize that they're different than I am. Because the biggest thing I didn't realize how hard it was. Now that I know what I've accomplished, and you kind of look back, it's like, wow, that was really hard. And there were some things along the way that really helped me as far as relationships that put me in a great place. And I think I maybe take for granted now. So one of the things that I make sure I tell my kids is like, whatever space that you're in, and I think I just did this because of how my mom raised me. But make sure that we're always treating people with great respect, regardless of whether or not you think they can do something for you or not, right? Treat human beings with the ultimate respect. And a couple of things come to my mind. One time when I didn't do it, I was getting a massage just real quick. But my massage therapist that week wasn't available. And so I was using somebody else who I didn't think was good. Told me my hamstring was sore or tight. I was like, man, what do they know? They're not good, right? End up pulling my hamstring, right, in that game. So, always listening to what people are telling you, because I'm a Christian, so I always believe it's coming from God. So if somebody's saying something, at least take it in and listen, right? It may mean something, it may not, but don't discredit it based on who the messenger is. And then another two, as far as relationships, treating people with great respect. I had a guy that I played with when I was a rookie, and the way I carried myself, the way I spoke, the way I treated my teammates. Years later, when I was getting a big deal, he actually vouched for me to be a part of that organization to bring me in based on who I was when we interacted, years before as a rookie. So just I think a positive way, and a way that kind of humbled me in a way, but why I think relationships matter and they're key. And I have a ton of stories like that, but those two pop to mind.
Yeah, the never burning bridges is, an old expression, but it's really important, really important. And thing we're going to talk about in our program is branding yourself. It starts very young, but the kind of reputation you have, the kind of image you have will take you a long way or derail you, no matter how much talent you have. So that's good. But I appreciate it, Paul. And Paula, the reason that she's with us and hanging with us is provides excellent counseling herself. One thing that we will be providing to you is we're just giving you an introduction to topics, an introduction to ideas. You're going to need people to help you actually implement and carry through some of these. So people like Lorenzo and Paul um, then can provide that additional help to you later on. So I appreciate Paul you being online. I don't know, we have any other people on. Joe, did you have a question? See if I can get on. You might unmute yourself if you do. No. no, I guess he's fine. So that's it. So I appreciate, again, everyone being online. Again, World's Best Connectors, the WBCs.com. So look us up. I'm Denise Meridith, CEO. Again, we're in the midst. We had a great meeting yesterday with, I don't know, we must have probably had 50 people there that were interested in the Arizona Bowl. We get involved in different events, and there's a lot of them coming up. Arizona Bowl, there's the big event whose name you cannot mention coming up in New Orleans. We'll be there. If you want to help us out in those capacities, get a hold of me as well. But again, thank you everyone, and have a great week. Take care.